everybody, and welcome to the Geary, Stein and Stevens show. And I, of course, am Dave Stevens. It's great to be here again, back in Connecticut after a very busy week. I started at the Eagles Steelers game, ended up at the World Series, came back to Connecticut to host a charity event, and ended up in Miami for a great cause to go to an Abilities Expo. But we are back, and I've got my cohorts with me. Joining me tonight, as always, I've got Will Stein, I've got Troy Geary, and of course, our guest tonight is a guy that, he played a little baseball, and we'll get to him in a little bit. Didn't want to give it away, but Scott Spiezio is joining us. So, hi, Scott. Welcome to the show. And of course, we got Troy and Will. Hi, guys. Say hello to Scott Spiezio.
What's up, Scott? Good to see you.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Scott, it's great to have you here, and I know, especially this time of year at the World Series, it's always great to kind of look back at maybe a couple of the things that you did. If we remember what happened here in 2002, a big home run that really catapulted the Angels to come back and win that World Series. What are your memories of this swing? And as you round to the bases, you get 10 seconds to think about
it. Well, I mean, it's probably the biggest swing in my career. It's crazy because my dad and I practiced that in the backyard from the time I was probably 4 years old up until I got into the major leagues. And so, I had a long time to think about it going to first. I kept praying that, I kept saying, God, please push it out. And once it went out, the roar of the crowd was unbelievable. The adrenaline just surged through my body, and I had flashbacks of my dad in the backyard going, okay, it's 3-2 count, 2 outs, bases loaded, you're down one, bottom of the ninth, game 7 of the World Series, what are you going to do? And so it was just like all the time and effort that I put into it was worth it. And then, of course, the next day we won game 7 to win it, and I got my ring, and my dad had 2. I had to at least get 1, and then, fortunately down the road I got to tie him.
Well, it was such a great memory, a great moment, and they've played it a lot during this World Series, and looking back and reflecting and seeing some of the things that you did in your career. And we're going to go through the gamut of the ups and downs of your life and everything. But, you had a great career. You had 2 World Series championships that you have under your belt. Not a lot of people can say that. And, of course, you hit 255 in your career, 119 home runs, 549 runs batted, and you played with the A's, the Angels, the Mariners, and the Cardinals. But, Scott, give us some of those reflections of the best times of your career in the big leagues.
Well, I'd say that, everybody remembers their call up. We had just won. I was in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada with AAA A's, and we were called the Edmonton Trappers. And I had a really good AAA playoffs. I think I had 6 home runs in probably, just as many games. And I didn't know if I'd get called up. They called me up on Friday the 13th, and I took a puddle jumper from Edmonton to a prop plane, basically from Edmonton to Cleveland, and was in the lineup, and they gave me number 13, and I'm like, no, this ain't happening. But we got rained out, and I ended up begging for number 21. And the next day, I got to play and got to hit my first at bat. And Mark McGuire gave me my glove and says, "Great hit, kid. Nowhere to go but down now." And so I thought that was an amazing moment. Of course, getting to play in the World Series and having a huge home run and tying the record with 19 RBIs, the most ever in the playoffs. And so it was me and Sandy Alomar Jr. And then, of course, Big Papi tied us with 19 later. And then David Freese broke it with 21 with the Cardinals in 2011. That was huge. Of course, 2006 again, getting to play again after getting released from Seattle. I didn't know if I'd get to play again. And then I got to play. What I figured they were going to invite me as a minor league spring, invitee to spring training and give me like number 92 or something. They gave me number 26, which was my dad's number. And it was 2006. I just had a feeling that we had something special down there with the Cardinals, and we were opening the new Busch Stadium, and I had a really.
Oh, it looks like we have lost Scott's signal for just a second. Hopefully he pops back in, and looks like we got him. That's the Ghosts and Goblins. So continue, Scott.
Oh, okay. So did you hear the rest of that? Okay, you
Yeah,
heard me.
yeah, we got you.
Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, so the next year, my dad, the Cardinals surprised me, and they had my dad in his old 26 jersey present the ring to me, and it was a special moment. We're the only father son to ever win with the same organization, and the only father son to win two apiece, and so I don't think there was a dry eye in the place, and it was also sentimental because I started going through some stuff in Seattle, and kind of lost, kind of didn't communicate with my parents and my family for about a year and a half or so, and so it was a big moment for me off and on the field, and so I'd say those were probably the biggest highlight moments of my life, in my career, basically. Of course, but if we're talking about life, it would be my four kids being born, um, but on the field, those are probably the biggest highlights.
You talked briefly about your dad both went into World Series. How special was that to share that with him that you both won, especially with the Cardinals, since he was a longtime Cardinal.
Yeah, so I grew up about four. I still live 4 hours away from St. Louis. As a matter of fact, I'm going and speaking there tonight or tomorrow night for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes fundraiser. And so as a kid, my dad retired when he was 30 years old. It was his last game was about 5 days after I was born in September of 1972. He opened a furniture store in Morris, Illinois, where I'm at now. And so, going back to his old timers games down in St. Louis, um, I'd always get to, I always see my dad wearing the rings. I'd always see his teammates, Lou Brock, Bob Gibson. Um, Stan Musial wasn't on his team, but he was always down there, and Mike Shannon, and sorry, my alarm went off. And just a bunch of Orlando Cepeda. It was so cool, and every time we drive down and the arch would come into sight, I'd be like, I get so excited, and then I have two older sisters, so I always told them, you know, you guys can have the ring. I'm going to get my own, and so it was something I always wanted to do. It was a huge goal, and it's a special thing that you can have as a player. I mean, you can have all the individual stats that that you want in your career, but the the team goals and the team championships are something that can never be taken away from you, and the cities remember you forever, and that banner is always going to fly in every stadium, in Anaheim and in St. Louis. So it's pretty cool.
And little known fact, I think your father had the very first hit in San Diego Padres history. Am I correct on
Yeah.
that? All
Yes,
right.
he it was the first. So it was April 8th, 1969, the expansion draft. I think there was three or four new teams at that time. Uh, and he was excited because he knew he was going to get to play a lot more, leaving the Cardinals in their all-star type of team, and so he got up, I think, in the fifth inning. They were getting no hit and hit a home run. And so he has the first hit, first home run, first RBI, and first run scored in Padre history. Pretty neat stuff.
So you mentioned that you opened up the stadium in St. Louis in 2006. What is your favorite ballpark that you've ever played in?
Well, I always say St. Louis and Anaheim are my two favorites. Um, Other than those two, I would say Old Yankee Stadium was really cool. Um, can you guys hear my dogs? They're fighting right now. Hopefully you can't. But if you do, if you hear chains rattle around, it's those guys. Um, so I would say Yankee Stadium was pretty cool. Boston, Fenway Park. Um, and then some of the newer parks that I liked were Pittsburgh. I really like that park, and Baltimore.
Well, we continue to have you on our show, but we are going to step away for just a second to pay a few bills and to make sure that you guys are getting the best things that we have out there available for all of our listeners and all of our viewers. So don't go away. Continue to stay here all evening long or all morning or wherever you're listening to this podcast. I'm Dave Stevens for Geary, Stein and Stevens. Don't go away.
Hi again, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein and Stevens Show. And I'm on the road a lot covering professional teams like the Philadelphia Eagles here in this beautiful stadium, but I don't have a lot of time to eat. What I do use, though, is Athletic Greens One. It's a great supplement that you can use every day to get that nutrition that you're missing. And you know what? If you're drinking those energy drinks, those monster drinks, those add up where this costs just $3 a day. It's got over 75 vitamins and nutrients in it that it would take you so many pills and bottles to take. But it's all right here. You just put a couple of scoops in with the water. You mix it up with either lemon juice or what I like to use with frozen fruit. It tastes great. It makes you feel good. And, of course, it is going to make you live life better. So, Athletic Greens One. If you want more information, go to athleticgreens.com/GSS. They'll give you a year's supply of vitamin D if you go to that website. So continue to follow Stevens, Stein, and Geary, or Geary, Stein, and Stevens, wherever you go. But make sure you're taking Athletic Greens One.
Hey, everybody. Are you still listening? Well, good. Because would you like 20% off the world's softest, comfiest, best-fitting men's clothes? Fresh Clean Threads has your back, your front, your sides, everywhere that you want to look. For tees, tanks, Henleys to polos, pullovers, and hoodies. You get designer quality basics without paying ridiculous designer prices. And you get 20% off by typing in the GSS show code. 20% off for beautiful shirts I like to wear. I love to dance in them, and I feel good. So 20% off your order, go to freshcleanthreads.com. And of course, you can look like me in my Fresh Clean Threads. And we are back for the second and third parts of Geary, Stein and Stevens. We've got Scott Spiezio joining us tonight. And Scott, we've talked a lot about your career and about some of the amazing things that you've done in your career. But, you have talked about the ups and downs of your career and some of the personal problems that you developed along the way. And I know you've been, very forthright and very inspirational talking about where the lowest of lows took you and the highest of highs. And, I know you've been sober now for almost 4 years or maybe a little more. And just tell us about, what got you to that point. How long did you fake it? It got you out of baseball, and how did you recover?
Yeah, so I've been sober over 4.5 years now. It was April 2000, April, I think April 5th was my last drink, 2018. So my sobriety date would be April 6th, 2018. And it was crazy because my whole life, nobody in my family had an issue with alcohol or addiction. And as a matter of fact, I came from a small town. There was really, people drank and stuff, but I was not a big drinker. I would have a few beers here and there in college and maybe in the minor leagues and, in the major leagues when I got there. I didn't even like taking Advil or Tylenol or anything like that. Drink coffee or anything. I was straight as an arrow. And as a matter of fact, I was the dare guy. I would talk, in my high school, I go to the great schools and talk. I would go to, in college, I'd go to the high schools and grade schools and talk about, staying away, picking your friends, picking the right friends. Continued to do that through the minor leagues and into the major leagues. And even, was on dare cards when I was with the Anaheim Angel, where I'd have, a drug dog in one hand and, leaning on the dare card and on the other hand, and the other arm. And, I continually talked about, decision making, making good choices in life and being morally sound. I'm a Christian, and I always have been. And, so it was, I'd even talk about, my faith and my story and things like that. And so it was crazy, for me to, I getting into it. Basically, it was when I went to Seattle in 2004. I got hurt in spring training. I didn't have my good group of, friends like I did in the Angels organization for 4 strong years, where I had, good Christian friends around me that held me accountable. Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson, Orlando Palmero, David Eckstein, and there's even more than that. And we'd get together, have Bible studies on the road, at home. We had a great chaplain, Chuck Obremski, and I was really grounded. And then when I went to Seattle, I didn't really want to go to Seattle. I wanted to stay in Anaheim, but since Anaheim wasn't an option, they were going to, move Darren Erstead into first base and cut my playing time and my salary. And I just had 2 of the best years I'd ever had. And so, I was kind of forced to move on, and that was fine. And I chose Seattle because I always liked the city. And I went there and got hurt. And that was kind of the first time I ever got, challenged with a big injury. And all of a sudden, they're telling me I might not walk again. I might not play. I probably won't play again. And I was like, wait a second, I've worked my whole life. I haven't even got to have fun yet. And so then I wasn't playing. I had time on my hands. I was traveling with the team. I started going out and, hanging out with them, trying to make friends and in the wrong places, and started drinking, hard liquor with them. And then it kind of just became a habit. And I started doing it more and more. And the more I did it, the more I kind of got addicted to it. And then I started making bad choices because of it, and which led to an affair and a divorce, which was horrible because my wife was great, and we had 3 kids, and everything was great, and it was just I wasn't thinking correctly, and that led to the divorce. I ended up remarrying somebody that had used drugs in the past, and after a year and a half of being with her, her and a friend of mine, we were drinking one night and said, hey, let's try some cocaine. And I had always said no, no, no. And I just got released by the Mariners in like August of 2005, and it was probably a few months later, and maybe in November, and we were out one night, and I said, all right, I'll try it. And one thing led to another, and and eventually, by 2000, end of 2006 and the beginning of 2007, the end of 2006 wasn't bad, but I started using it more right around August, and then in 2007 it became pretty much, it ruled my life. And then from there on, I ended up getting, I still ended up having a good year, which is crazy. But I got in a wreck. I was doing things I would have never done in a million years, and I found myself in a real dark place. And I tried fighting, but I was naive. I thought you go to rehab and for 28 days and you're cured, and that's not the case at all. So I came back. First day back, I went 1 for 3 off Carlos Zambrano and the Cubs. I thought, okay, I got this thing licked, and that was not the case at all. And so I struggled in the off season, got in another wreck, and the Cardinals ended up deciding to release me in spring training in 2008. And then kind of the wheels fell off. I really started feeling guilt and shame, and that was holding me down. And instead of saying, God forgave me for everything already, just let's focus on making progress, I just kind of use that as an excuse to drink and use. And in the I just kept getting further and further away from myself, and eventually I looked across and I didn't even know who I was anymore, and then you start telling yourself lies, devil speaking in your ear, like, you're not worthy, you shouldn't even be in your kids' lives, everybody hates you, and it took me a long time. I kept fighting. I fought for years. I went, for about, it was a bad 12 years, and I went to rehab 12 times in 12 years, and I kept thinking each time I went, I had a better shot of succeeding, and finally, thank God, with Tanya Boyer's help, who came into my life, she really helped me. And I had a whole bunch of people that were trying to help me, but she came in at just the right time when I was starting to get deathly ill. My liver was bad. And I'd make jokes like, my liver is evil, it needs to be punished, and when I drink, and I got too much blood in my alcohol system, I'd say stupid stuff like that. But it caught up to me, and luckily I had some great people around me, and my family, my parents, my sisters, my true friends from my hometown of Morris, Illinois, just huddled around me and helped me just gain strength. And as I started gaining strength, I felt all this pressure come off me, and I just started, after about a year and a half, uh, my brain chemistry started coming back. My brain was pretty much scrambled, and it's like the old commercial. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. That's what it was. And my old self started emerging, and people people started coming back in my life, and then eventually I felt like I came through this for a reason, and God God allowed me to go through it so that I could help others and give other people hope, and also to try to scare people and say, hey man, this stuff is serious. I mean, you give up everything in your life for one thing, and it becomes your life, and you lose everything around you, and your career, your family, your finances, you name it, your health, and it's just not worth it, and you think that lifestyle of hanging out with rock stars and athletes and actors and actresses, and driving the fancy cars and all that is what it's all about. And it's not, it's, I've had it all, and what it's all about is, investing in others, and trying to be there for others, and your family. And my priorities are back to God, family, true friends, and helping others. And so that's the kind of the journey that happened, the last before I was sober, the last 12 years before I was sober.
Wow, what a journey it was. And we're going to continue that journey. We're going to take a quick break, real quick. And so don't go away. You're listening and watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens.
Hi again, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary Stein and Stevens at the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. And why am I on the turf? Well, because Manscaped really helps us groom that turf. The stuff down below, when you use all the Manscaped products, all the amazing Manscaped products that they have to groom, to shave, to keep clean, to smell good, with the shampoos, the conditioners, the deodorants, the lip balm, all of the great stuff. Manscaped has great products, not only for down below, but for all of the stuff up above, too. And if you go to the website, manscaped.com, and type in the show code GSS show, you get 20% off of your order, and you'll be able to have the best grooming materials that money can buy. So I use the Manscaped products every time I'm at a professional sporting event, and it makes me look great to get great locker room interviews, and of course to continue to use the great Manscaped products. That's manscaped.com. Type in the show code GSS show for 20% off. You'll look good, I look good, I smell good because I use Manscaped.
And hey, everybody, we have a great announcement. Guess what? The Geary, Stein, and Stevens show is now going to be on television. Not just a podcast, not just on YouTube, but yeah, it's actually on TV. You can watch it on your home and wherever you are on your laptop, any place. You just have to type in yourhometv.com for right now, and you can watch the Geary, Stein, and Stevens show, the best of. You can put in the highlights like my buddy here, Jason, working out and watching Linda Cohn. And of course, all of our shows, the best ones, are going to be on there. So you can go on, click on some great products as well on your home TV. and with Kathy Ireland as the boss of this thing, it's pretty cool. So Your Home TV, tune in to yourhometv.com, and it's pretty cool that we're now on a platform like that, huh, Troy and Will?
Yeah, excited. January will be on Roku and Amazon Fire Stick as well.
All right, as we continue our wrapping things up with Scott Spiezio, a little downer for that segment, but you have rebounded and you're doing well, and we're thank you for that. So let me turn it over to Troy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the rally monkey. That kind of really started from your home run and back in the World Series in Game 6 of 2002. How much fun was that? Seeing that every day at the ballpark, and it's still going on today.
Uh, well, it started and it kind of drove us crazy at first, and then it started working. I think that year, I think we came back, I want to say like 48 comeback wins, and we had a knack for coming back late in games, especially when they bring that rally monkey on. And I know other teams to this day, like guys that were played against us are like, I hate that thing. I hated that thing. There was some guys that would even tell their teams like, don't, when they play that thing, don't look at it, don't look at it in the eyes. But it was awesome. It was a great way to get the fans involved, especially when we needed them late in the game. And it was funny to see little kids and teenagers dressed up in these costumes and jumping around, and it was a great time, and I know it was probably a big seller for the Angels, that's for sure.
You're muted there, Will.
Speaking of least favorite things, who was your least favorite pitcher to go against?
Well, I think there was two that I struggled with. I'm trying to think who the Chuck Finley. When I faced him, he got me out. I think I was old for my first 20 off him, and then I can't remember if I bunted off him to get a hit, and then or if I hit one like a dribbler through third and short, between third and short. But he got me out all the time. Mariano Rivera got me out quite a bit. Um, there's other guys that were really tough on me. I ended up getting some hits. I know Roger Clemens was tough on me for a while, and then I started getting a hit or two off him. Pedro was always tough off me. I got a home run off him though. But there's a lot of tough pitchers that I didn't really enjoy facing. But Randy Johnson was a guy that I didn't really pick up that well, but for some reason, when I did see him in the season or in spring training, I did okay off of him.
Well, speaking of pitchers, Scott, I got to bring up some old video here. If you remember when you made your pitching debut, and hey, it wasn't too bad. I've seen a lot of position players get out there and get rocked and going deep and everything like that, but you kind of looked like you had fun out there. Do you remember coming out on a mound and what that was like for you?
Oh yeah, I mean that 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 was 2007, so I was struggling there. That was when I was still I was basically still drinking to try to maintain even during games and stuff like that. I came in because we were getting crushed in that game, and LaRusse was like, "Hey, get out there and just throw fastballs." I'm like, "Oh, come on, I want to throw curveballs and sliders and stuff." And I went down to the bullpen to warm up, and everybody's like, "Just lob it in there." I'm like, "No, this is my chance. I haven't got to pitch since high school, which would have been 1990, and this was 2007." And so it was awesome. I think I cranked one or two up to around 87. I know I had a couple outs, and I think I walked somebody because I tried to throw a split finger and get a strikeout. And then my catcher, Gary Bennett, was like, "What are you doing?" And so then my last guy was Jack Custon, and he swung through a couple fastballs four seamers I threw. And I got it. Then I'd go like sidearm and 3/4 arm. and kind of slow it down so it would sink a little bit. And I got to 3-2, and I threw him a 4-seam fastball down the middle, and I thought maybe he got it good, but it must have either got in or off the end of the bat, and he flew out to right. And now every time I teach kids now in my hometown, and I always tell the kids, you're facing the greatest pitcher of all time. And so, I always say I'm going to put 0 ERA right behind my head when I'm pitching. And it's cool that I got to do that and experience it. And, it was one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had on a field. And it was really cool that Tony let me do that.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you about the soul patch. What started you dyeing it when you were in Anaheim, when you were with the Cardinals?
Yeah, so when I was in Anaheim, when I first got there, we had kind of this old looking, it was a weird looking like Disney uniform. And then we changed to the white and red, which all of us liked much better. And in 2002, we had Paint the Town Red Day against the Oakland A's, which was my old team. And, I remember like they were trying to make me, when I was with Oakland, they were trying to make me miss arbitration. And I ended up not missing it. I was a Super 2. And I remember talking to one of the coaches, and I said, you know what, like when I go here, I'm gonna make sure that I do really well off you guys when I play you. And he's like, well, we'll just throw balls and you'll swing at them. I'm like, no, I won't. I'm gonna rake off you guys. And sure enough, here I am. It's still in the American League West, and Oakland in that year had like a 20-game win streak. We were still right with them. We were playing just as good a baseball. And after we came off to we started 6-14 on the year, but we rallied from then on out. And when it came down, I think it was August, I thought, man, Paint the Town Red Day, what can I do? And so I went out, and I had black hair, but it was straightened. And I had them put red streaks in it. And then I had a full goatee, and I had them put a little red streak in the goatee. And I started really hitting the ball well. And so then every time I'd come up, like Mickey Hatcher would take a Sharpie and color it in. He'd say, we got to keep you hot. We got to keep you hot. And it lasted all through that year. And I think I did it again in 2003, had another really good year. And then I went to Seattle, and I wasn't going to really do it. I got hurt, of course. And then Teal wouldn't have looked good in there. So when I got the call that I was going to be invited to spring training, with the Cardinals, I had changed to just this because it was, it wasn't as much hair to mess with and trim. So I thought, man, let's start this thing with the bang. And so as soon as I got off the phone with them and my agent, I went to somebody that cut my hair here in my hometown, and I went to high school with, and I said, hey, can you cut my hair, and then can you bleach this and then color it red? They're like, yeah. So we did it, and my agent's like, you should never do that. St. Louis is conservative. And I said, nah, don't worry about it, And so I went, I did it my first day, and everybody loved it. And it was kind of like my war paint. Like before I go to the field, I'd paint it every day. And it would get on my uniform and stuff. I'm sure the clubhouse guys didn't like it, but the fans really liked it. And by the end, they were selling them out in front of the stadium for $5-6 a piece, and you'd see like grandmas and little kids and dogs wearing them, and it turned out to be a big fan hit. And of course, when we won the World Series, it just made it even more popular.
So you talked about your least favorite pitcher earlier. Who was your favorite pitcher to go off of?
Boy, I think statistically, I think I hit Aaron Seeley pretty well. I did play with him too, and he's an awesome guy. I don't know. For some reason, I just, I hit him pretty well. Woody Williams, I think I hit pretty well. You know, either in spring training and in the regular season. Kenny Rogers, I played with him too, and I think I hit him relatively well throughout my career. But there, those are a few guys that come to mind. There might be some more. I think Albie Lopez maybe with Tampa. Um, there's a few, but those guys I kind of remember feeling pretty comfortable at the plate. Something about it, I just saw it well.
Scott, tell us real quickly, as because you've made this incredible comeback in your life, and continued blessings to you to continue to battle that. I know you've really come from the depths. So, give us what was that lowest point, and now what's been your highest point since you've battled back.
Oh boy, I remember, I was never suicidal, but I remember times where I wrote notes saying, like, boy, if somebody finds me, and finds me dead, like I didn't do it on purpose. Tell my kids I love them. This is just an awful disease that I have, and so I remember times like that. I remember my oldest son starting to call me Scott because I think he was, pretty much embarrassed of me. And so, things like that where, I could just see the disappointment in my parents' eyes and the community's eyes and true friends' eyes. That was just awful times, I mean, basically when they told me in the hospital, you got a 20% chance to live, and you're probably going to have a liver transplant. And, there was a lot of really horrible times. But as far as, times since then, anytime, that I get to spend with my family and friends and my kids, especially, and I could just see the trust building in them. Like, he's got it this time. Here's my dad's back again, and building that trust and that love with, my parents and my sisters and the special people that are around me. And then every time that, I speak or I invest in somebody by, one-on-one working with them, that people are struggling, and, I get a message where they send me like their coin, and it's, they've been sober for a month, or they've been sober for 6 months, or, a year, or a year and a half, or 2 years. And as I get more sober, I've got people that I've worked with, to help them find help and get in the right direction. And, now I've got a bunch of people that I've seen not only get better, but are actually out helping people now too. And so, that's probably the most rewarding thing, is just knowing that, what I went through and my story has helped other people gain hope that they can do it too. And when you see people's lives saved or changed, that's what it's all about. And I know that's why God allowed me to go through it. I made the decision to do what I did. No, it was nobody else's fault but mine. But I think God had bigger plans, for me to go out and give people hope, but also scare them, like, hey, stay away from this stuff. This stuff, and especially with fentanyl now, this stuff is a killer, and one time it can happen to anybody. It just happened to one of my best friends from when I was growing up. His son of 28 years passed away by taking an Adderall pill that he thought was a normal pill, and it was laced with a lethal dose of fentanyl, and he didn't wake up. And it's happening over and over and over again, and it's really like a war against our youth, and it's a scary thing. And so I hope my story can, scare people, and like I said, also give them hope.
Well, hopefully, you got a book in the works or anything going on.
Yeah, so it's not in the works, but I've been writing down a lot of stuff, and I've been talking to people, because I probably, of course, do it with a ghostwriter. So I've been talking to a few of them, trying to see, and they've been helping me try to figure out what the best path is. But I really want to try to get it going here so that, my dad can be involved with it, and and some other friends that, have kind of been on the same path that I've been on and recovered. So yeah, it's cool because I've helped some teammates from my minor league and early major league days, and now they're out doing the exact same thing, and it's really cool to see. And hopefully someday I'll have a book and be able to go out and speak to more people.
Well, we appreciate it, and again, thank you for just wearing your heart in your sleeve and really it's got to be tough to be in the limelight, and when you do something that exacerbates it, and for you to share so much with us, God bless you and your continued recovery, and one day at a time, my friend.
That's right. That's all you can do. Just stay on that path, and some people slip, and if they do, it's not the end of the world. Just get right back on that horse and keep riding in the right direction. I appreciate you guys having me on and sharing my story, and hopefully it'll change some lives and save some lives.
Yes. Well, thank you, Scott, and thank you to my co-hosts. You guys, as always, are wonderful, and of course, don't forget our sponsors. Of course, Manscaped, because I look good and I feel good, and when you look good, feel good, you got that confidence. Go to the manscaped.com, 20% off when you type in that GSS show. Same thing for fresh, clean threads. I look good. I like to dance, and of course, everybody that wears these things, Troy, Will, they're wearing them. They look good. Everybody says, "Where can I get them?" Well, go to freshcleanthreads.com. And again, using that code will get you something. And if you want to live healthy and have a wonderful life, try Athletic Greens, athleticgreens.com/GSS. You get that free vitamin D. So that's a full show, my friends. That's a very full show for today. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of it. Scott, Troy, Will, final thoughts as we wave goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for joining us tonight, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and talking about some of the things that hopefully will help somebody out.
I appreciate learning.
Go ahead, Will.
I appreciate learning your story and more about the behind-the-scenes stuff and how I could share your story with some other people that I know that are going through some similar things that you have gone through already.
Thank you. Yeah, the one thing I'd say is, I always try to say this. As long as you got a pen, as long as you still got a breath, you can write a great ending to your story. And hopefully that gives some hope to people.
All right. Well, continued hope and success to you, and get that book going, and we'll get you back on. So thank you very much.
All right.
Dave Stevens for Troy and Will. I'm Dave Stevens. That's a wrap.